Thank you so much, Pyra and Soaz. And with that last series wrapped up, we have entered the EU LCS post-game lobby. Fantastic, and we can recap everything that happens. Yes, that's what you have to do when we get into the post-game lobby. Freeze is still here, of course, and Trevor has joined us as well, just coming off casting that last series. First off, maybe the player of the game, Soaz, because we just heard him talk that he is also the player of the game, and it was very interesting because you said when the Jax got locked in, they are going to win because you can't look at the teams in a situation like this. You have to look at the pick. That's what a caster has to do, and it came true.
It came true. And what happened once Soaz got a double kill, I looked Freeze in the eyes and I said, game is over.
Are you going to talk like this, though?
Game is over.
You're very proud of the fact that...
And he was like, no.
I'm so impressed. You said a Jax with a double kill would win the game.
Yeah.
Caster knowledge. And the AD carry over here is like, nah. They can throw and everything. Nope, easy win.
No, but if you look at it, obviously Jax has a double kill. That's not the best omen in the world, but Schalke should be a better team than OG in every scenario. So where did you think they dropped the ball, Freeze?
Well, the biggest problem with Schalke was that their strategy was involved about shutting Xpeke when Xpeke didn't have to do anything that game. It was very clear what the Origin win condition is, and that's if Jax gets big and he starts split pushing. And it was very weird that Schalke didn't recognize it throughout the entire game. So they were like focusing Xpeke all the time. At some point it was like 0-3-0, but it didn't matter. You know, like Jax was getting stronger, get Rift Herald, get the kills. Like you have to punish Jax.
Yeah.
If it's the only condition, if it's the only champion that can win the game for Origin, you have to shut him down. And they just basically didn't shut him down, which
maybe Peke overextending to get killed multiple times was like next level, you know, next level. Hey guys, look at me!
Yes, I was like, Peke, go push.
In any case, though, if we look at OG yesterday when they got that victory over Vitality, it was amazing, camping top lane a lot and getting Soaz ahead. So maybe it's not just a champion, but you just now have to invest all your resources in him. Yeah,
I mean, it's a good and a bad thing that Soaz right now, together with Amazing, are the two best performing members on Origin, because last split, obviously, they didn't perform that well, especially during the regular season, and it was more about the bot lane doing well. So is that because they've really stepped up and become like leaders and better players, or is it just that Origin's overall level is much lower than when they had a different bot lane? I think obviously it's the second one. I think Soaz and Amazing are playing much like they did last split for most of this season, and it's just because they aren't as good. Like, they're not competing for number 1 and number 2 right now. They're fighting middle of the pack to try and secure a playoff spot, basically.
I think even lower down if the standings aren't too horrible. I mean,
maybe
2 losses, 2 draws. It's not been a good start to the summer split for, you know, the second place squad from Spring.
Yeah. And the semi-finalists from Worlds, obviously. Moving to another team that is in first place, G2. They took on Splyce a lot earlier in the day, and they went 2-0. We had high hopes. During that first game, you uttered, hey, Splyce is one of the top teams, and they looked like it in the beginning of that game, but then it all went wrong.
Yeah, I mean, game 1 was pretty close. Obviously here, Kick is stuck in top lane against Ilauri. Not exactly the greatest spot for him, but first game was very close. I really felt like the composition from Splyce had no chance of winning late game against like Zillion, Caitlyn, Tom Kench as well. Like Freeze, when you see that kind of come from G2, it's like protect the AD carry basically.
Yeah, Caitlyn is very strong when she gets like full items, and if she gets like a speed up, it's the new Lucian. Remember, you had like used to have a Lucian Lulu or Lucian Zillion, Lucian Karma. Now it's Caitlyn. Caitlyn is the best champion right now as an AD carry. If it goes to the late game and you just make all these like speed ups for her, she's gonna go off terribly. And there's no stopping.
And they had a Vladimir that was
that was the second game, where it was just a stomp. Honestly, Splyce fell really far behind early. And yeah, late game, we saw Vladimir. I mean, late game with 26 minutes in, so...
Yeah, well, this was like
late game.
This was like the typical G2 scrim, you know? It's like see hero, kill hero. That's how it felt.
I know G2 come away looking like absolute monsters from that series, but I think the game 1 still gives me a little bit of hope and a little bit of faith in Splyce. Coming into the day, we actually were legitimately excited about how Splyce is going to match up against G2. For the first 25 minutes of that game, I was still impressed. Sure. I still feel, though, that the teamwork and maybe the individual abilities on Splyce is still half a tier to maybe a tier behind G2. So while Splyce may not be the best in Europe, which I consider G2 to be, they are competing for that top of the table right now.
I do think, though, that Splyce can actually match against the other top teams like Fnatic and you guys
they're
right
very
now.
good. They're very good. I'm actually surprised because I thought Splice is like the players they have, they are not like the best players in their role, but they've been showing up consistently. They've been playing super well, and their team play, like, I don't know what Yamato Cannon did to them, but them, like, they're playing as a team, you know, and most of the European teams don't play as a team, and that's a big difference between them and the
Europe.
others.
Hey, that's a one-up for that. We can actually talk about the strength of all the European teams, but one matchup that I want to drag into that before we talk about that, because it is telling, is Vitality up versus Roccat today. Roccat 2-0'd them straight up, and Vitality is a team that we had high hopes for, and hypes since the spring split, but it's Roccat that's turning it completely around.
Yeah, but Vitality do what only Vitality can do. They drag a game out for 27 years, only to not play the late game well and give the game away. Like, these players, I don't know how many times they found themselves in this position where they just have a lead, but they can't do anything with it.
Yeah, exactly. That's like typical Vitality game. They just get ahead all the time because they play these like Lissandra top lane, Lissandra mid lane, where they just get ahead mid game, and then when late game comes around, they have absolutely no idea what they should do and what they should be doing, and that mainly contributes to the scrims the way European teams scrim right now, because that's like, it's very different playing LCS and playing in like scrims, because you have to play macro focus, and if you FF the game in scrims all the time, then you don't know what to do when the game goes longer.
Yeah, and one thing just to jump in really quick is that, you know, Roccat played very well to counter Vitality, but in the second game that we're seeing all these clips, Kasing hit nothing. His bot was really ineffective, and every time they tried to tempered Fate engage, of which there were many, many, many attempts, literally none of them paid off. So it's also counterproductive when you do have a bad day and your players or your key engagers are unable to make it count.
Still, I want to go back to your scrim point. It's very interesting to hear how European teams are scrimming, like, because you were in North America, and during the game you obviously talked about how in North America it's a lot more about playing like it is an LCS game.
Exactly, yeah.
Can you explain more?
Well, it was very hard for me to come back from NA to European scrims schedule and the way the scrims go, because in NA the scrims were very similar to LCS performance. It was heavily focused on macro and just out-rotating the enemy. And then I go back to Europe and it's like, you know, the typical G2 scrim, see hero, kill hero all the time, no macro play, just outplaying straight up to V2, 3v3. There's like literally no place to macro. All it's about outplaying, and then, you know, you go into LCS, people get scared, they get like stage jitters, and they will not do that. And then you have like 40-minute games when no one knows what to do, because in scrims, you by then would have like 20 kills.
And Freeze, is this something that you think is a symptom of the players taking part, or the environment that is being bred from these scrim things? You know, where do you think it lies?
I think it's from the players, because the European players, they're like hungry to outplay and just prove that they're better than their counterpart.
Yeah,
they have like this ego. Yeah, exactly. So like you can see when we're scrimming and someone is like losing, let's say like Odo, we play versus Vitality, and Odo is like 20 CS behind. It's like, oh my god, you know, like Kabachar is getting jungler pressure and I'm not getting jungler pressure and stuff like that.
So you think that is also flowing into the fact that the relative level that we're seeing in the EU LCS, besides from when the top teams have good games or G2, we have seen a lot of bad games yesterday, for instance. And do you think that's that's, oh my god, it's a long day.
It's a reason.
It is a reason
Well,
because of the scrim culture.
It's actually a really good topic, and I think there's a lot of answers to it. Yeah, you know, great. I think, first of all, with Europe, one thing European teams have always done, like ever since I was a player even, was go super hard during the split, and like a few weeks before the split, that's like your practice. But then after, you just take a break. Like 2 or 3 weeks where teams don't scrim or anything, where all the North American teams were like going to Korea to boot camp and everything. But European teams is like, they go crazy during the split and just practice as much as possible until you're out of the tournament, basically. And then they take some weeks off, which means whenever you start a new split, you start like from zero almost.
Fresh. You have to start from
zero.
From
fresh, and it's really bad the first few weeks. Almost every single split we've had so far, like the first few weeks look terrible. But then towards playoffs, teams get better, and you see a team like Fanatic obviously not look great last split, and then suddenly go into playoff and they look much better and they actually secured third place and like played like a legit good team. So I would love to see like European teams actually try and keep the level going.
That's why we didn't do well internationally last
I know
time. We're
that's a
not
whole different
trying.
story, but
Okay.
we just have this mentality of,
Yeah.
okay, now we're done with the season, so it's break time. We don't want to burn out, you know, and then go back and super try. Do you agree in that as well?
Yeah, I agree to a certain point, but like, like the next point what I have to bring out is that Gamers 2 is the best team right now, you know, and that's basically the significant play style. Like Gamers 2 just play it like to outplay. They're very overconfident. They're
Also,
very
right
cocky.
now is crying.
Yeah, he's so mad at you right now.
G2
esports.
GT.
It's
You've
fine.
been away.
Yeah.
You've been away. You didn't know the
Nah,
team name. It's fine.
NA freeze, whatever.
So to that, actually, Trevor had a wonderful interview with Airwax after their win. I believe he said EU is a weak region right now, aside from G2 and Fnatic. But you guys smashed Fnatic today. We're going to take a look at that match as well. So did that change? And is it now H2K and G2? Or can we safely say it's just G2?
I'd say GT because in this script, it's sort of our kryptonite. So we'll have to see when they match them on LCS stage. But like today versus Fnatic, we had such a good preparation with Prole, and it just shown we completely knew every single thing the Fnatic does, and we were so confident in playing like the way we played.
I saw Prolly backstage while you guys were in game 2, almost about to throw the game, in fact.
Yeah.
And I said to Prolly that I felt like unleashing Freeze's Draven was a positive sign. And he looked at me and he said, yes, that's his punishment for not doing homework. So it's great to hear that you
Wait
tell
a
the
minute.
story.
So he didn't do homework. Freeze came up here and told us that he missed a meeting. So you got homework.
Yeah, that's the right story.
Oh,
I don't know what
okay.
Prolly
So
talks
it's because you
about.
missed the meeting.
That's
you get
it.
to play Draven. What a punishment. Damn.
Yeah.
Sucks to be you.
But it was just nice to see H2K like uncouple because you know, Oda also gave a very long discussion around how the team is still settling down, still trying to find their feet. And is this something that you also are really only finding your feet on the LCS stage?
Yeah, well, for me, I'm still feeling like I'm not a part of the team. You know, it's like I'm a new player and I have to get play with them more to get used to them, and they have to get used to my playstyle as well. And now we're like finding the middle ground between playing around bot lane and playing around other lanes, you know, because they played with Forgotten before, they were like sort of playing only around bot lane, and now they don't want to play around bot lane, but I want them to play around bot lane, and it's like clashing, you know, but like we're finding the way and we're getting more used to each other. And yeah, like this game, I started feeling more comfortable. Like the week before, I felt super bad. I just didn't like felt comfortable at all. And this week, I actually just went off, you know.
But you were allowed to play League of Legends today.
Yeah.
Like last week, you may as well have been Evelyn for some of those games because the game was either won or lost by the rest of the team.
And on top of that, you got your favorite champion, and you got the kills early. You were player of the game also in one, and Ryu was in the other one because his fizz is still terrifying. I do want to,
I have to say, despite all those kills and all those positives, I mean, Fnatic gave them to him.
Yeah.
Like, yes, H2K played so well,
That's what
but I
I was
think
wondering.
like the dragon teleports
that was the
in
worst I've
game,
ever
like
seen. I
I was sitting backstage going, why did this happen? I thought you guys were smarter than this. And it was just really bad calls.
To that, not to poke the bear or anything, or have, we asked the guys at home who the most underrated player was in their eyes in EULCS so far. And Yasko Legend A1 tweeted, Gamsu, a solid laner, even better team fighter with a wide champion pool. Now that is a lot of topic of discussion. Obviously, a lot goes into, okay, nobody is Reignover and Huni, obviously. But how bad is it?
I mean, I disagree with some of the statements made in that tweet, like the wide champion pool part. Yes, he plays Gragas, but like that's not enough. He plays Maokai as well, and that's 2 picks I've seen so far up in the top lane from him. Very early days.
Zach doesn't count? You're just gonna...
Okay, sure. He had the Zach game. Basically, he just picked tanks, and the problem for me is the early pick it.
Yeah.
Like even against the first game against you guys where they picked Maokai in the first rotation, I'm like, this makes 0 sense. Like, you guys were never going to pick it anyway.
Exactly. Like, we knew from watching the games they did that they play only one tank comps, and the tank is always top lane. So, you know, there's like a Gragas. You can early pick Gragas, and you can put it jungle and top, but we instantly knew that it's top lane because that's the tank they play, and they don't play it in jungle. So it was very easy to tell what they are going to play, and that they will be having 4 squishies and 1 tank only. And the next point is like Gamsu might be underrated, but you know, like if the Fnatic bot lane is being played around a lot, like I watched the replays, I did the homework obviously.
Of course.
So and in all these games, Spirit was playing only around bot lane.
Yes.
And when Spirit is playing, like when your jungler is playing around bot lane and you're a top laner, you start feeling less confident. You start like playing worse, and you don't believe in your engages, you don't believe in your like outplays, and that's how I feel about Gamsu right now.
I actually think he's very fairly rated, because I think a lot of people, like, they don't put him as a top laner, but they don't put him as the worst top laner either. I think he's decent. He's a fine tank. I don't think he's a strong laner specifically, but I do think it's obviously still a big change compared to what Huni offered. Very, very big change. And I think with Gamsu, the biggest problem is just the fact that he's only playing tanks at this point, and the meta is heavily shifting away from these tanks. So Fnatic needs to fix that the next few weeks, because you can't just keep playing Zac, Maokai, Gragas every single game and have to early pick them as well.
Yeah, seems to be the main issue for them, and obviously 1-0-2 versus H2K doesn't spell out your entire season, but it's definitely warning signs when it's such a convincing game from the side of you. Another convincing match, Giants versus the Unicorns of Love. Giants straight up 2-0'd the Unicorns of Love. Sunstar got a pentakill and Knight went off. That's the TLDR.
Did you watch this, Trevor?
I sadly did not get to. I was preparing for an interview at the time. I think on your game, in actual fact.
Oh, yeah. That's true. Yeah, so no, basically, none of us actually got to watch this game.
Well, I saw the pentakill.
Hey, is it the first pentakill of the...
Yes, it is.
It is.
Oh, okay.
No, but the funny thing is, we talked about this coming into this week, how Giants honestly were better than they had shown, because they played H2K, G2, and Fnatic. This was their first game against a non-top 3 team.
Yeah.
And they 2-0. Beat out Unicorns of Love, who's obviously not been looking great either, but it's a very important game to win for Giants, because this is going to be one of the teams you're fighting against to avoid going to the promotion tournament. So this is a key victory for Giants.
And I think that's a much bigger story to follow, is what does this mean for the Unicorns of Love? Because they have not looked that great. So here's the pentakill.
Take a look.
Where is he?
Where is
playing Sivir.
Yeah.
One boomerang.
All right, everyone is low. Oh, he's playing Ezreal. I'm baiting everyone here.
Yeah.
And Mystic Shot incoming. Here's an auto attack. Yeah, that's play by play.
Why do you have to put in a weird accent?
I don't know, man.
Oh, God.
Anyway,
all our
where's the
play-by-plays are
penta?
British.
Oh, there it is at the end. Nice.
You had to run halfway across the jungle, but yeah, well played. On that Ezreal, of course.
Yeah, and also just a confidence boost for Sunstar, who we had a lot of criticism for, and for the Giants in general. As you say, they had a really tough schedule. H2K, Fnatic, G2, so this is one they really needed. And Knight, Vedius is super excited about Knight, and I mean, he played great, so it's a good start.
He did. I quite enjoyed watching Giants yesterday when they played against you, because they actually gave you more trouble than I think you were expecting. And it was primarily in my mind because Giants like stuck together as this death ball, and H2K, I think, had no idea how to break it up. So they just brute forced their way around the map. I think if Giants can get a little bit more finesse, they can challenge in the middle of the table. But as you said, their strength of schedule is tough.
Yeah, what do you think of them, Freeze?
Well, I expected it's going to be easier for us to beat them, but they show up big time, and they like gave us a big fight that we had to like actually win the game and outplay them, outsmart them.
Bigger than Fnatic today.
Yeah, it was if I compare it to Fnatic, Fnatic was way easier to win against them, because mainly maybe because we practiced and prepared way more versus Fnatic, because we expected like Giants to be a little easier opponent, and then prepare a lot for Fnatic because that's the top team we have to beat, and we have to show that we can beat them consistently. But then again, like they really surprised us.
Yeah, a lot of surprises also in these 2 days. Let's take a look at the standings at the end of 2 weeks of competition, and with 8 games under each team's belt, G2 have reclaimed sole possession of first place, H2K and Fnatic behind that, then Rocket, Schalke, and at the bottom of the table, Origin is now in 10th, and then the Unicorns of Love, while Giants find themselves above that. 2 things we glossed over, or didn't talk a lot about, is Rocket. Today, fantastic performance, and I feel like this is a team that where they are at now is where they should be.
Yeah, because yesterday when we looked at the standings, they were with like Vitality and Unicorns of Love, and we were like, nah, not really. This team is actually much better than staying around Vitality and Unicorns at the moment. So with them winning today, obviously moving up the standings, you get a lot with 3 points. I think it's well deserved. And also for Origin, obviously, yes, they picked up some wins now, but the fact they lost to Unicorns last week, like that's huge, because you're actually now fighting down the bottom, and you can't afford losing 2-0 to these teams just around you.
I think it's very crucial that they got 2 draws this week, though. Those additional points, and I think more importantly, denying people 3 points is very, very important, because you need to stay within touching distance of points, especially as the season goes on. And just to circle back to Rocket, Airwax just very brutal. Like I asked him directly, why is your early game so bad? And he straight up said, me. He said, I'm the reason we're not playing well.
Quick shot?
If I get better in the early game, then Roccat will have a better early game. And it's quite nice in my mind to hear a little bit of self-awareness from players, because it is something that is sometimes lacking.
Yeah, Arex is also one of the players that is go ham or go home, and he can give you a lot in the early game. But I want to ask you about Steelback. Obviously, he's been using a lot of Caitlyn. So how much is connected to the relative strength of Caitlyn, and how much is it Steelback, or both?
I think it's both. Steelback has been playing super well lately, and the team is playing well around him. They usually peel for him. They play Janna a lot with Caitlyn, which is very strong. If you peel and use the Caitlyn traps, there's basically no better AD carry in teamfights if you have Caitlyn with those traps. And usually the games go long for Roccat. Either some of them get scored, or like Airbox said, you know, in early game he sometimes invades alone, gets caught, dies. So the game goes longer even if they're ahead, and then the Caitlyn Janna shows how much power they have in late game.
Yeah. Final thing about the standings: is Vitality going to find their way up there again?
I mean, what do you think about the new AD carry? I'm just going to throw it straight up.
Yeah, I don't want to answer this. Bail out.
I don't know. Like, I've played against him, I think, only one scrim, and he didn't seem like bad, but he didn't seem good. He just seemed like normal, average AD carry. But that's what Vital did. Like, they need an AD carry that's gonna do very well in late game, because Vitality's problem is just late game team fights. And if you are an AD carry player and the game gets to late game, then you should be carrying. You know, that's your job. You have to wait all these 35 minutes to actually start doing something, unless you get 10-0 or 5-0 in lane or something. You know, or you played Raven.
Or you played Raven and you get early kills, but. I just want to see EpicSkillshot go back to the EpicSkillshot we know and love so much. Like, when he gets to play his carries up top, because like this meta technique should fit him so well. I think in a few weeks' time, Vitality will be better, but I don't think it's going to be enough for them to challenge for top standings. Also because they will fall further behind. I think like next week as well in terms of points, but I think they will make it into playoffs. I just don't actually believe in the current Vitality to then outperform or outdo what they did in Spring Split, and just I think they're going to crash out in quarterfinals again.
They're very linear.
Very early. I'm saying this in week 2.
Yeah, just week 2, 8 games.
They're very linear in their playstyle. They like only have one champion on each lane that they play like super well, and then if you ban those, then they don't really know what to do. Like, specifically, Lissandra for New Deck has been like the star pick for him, and he's been playing super well on it, but you know, if you take that away, what is he going to play?
Yeah, you do your homework. I can see that. Matchup. Let's take a look at the leaderboard for the players of the game. Of course, obviously, 10 possibilities, but a lot of players got it twice today. Steelback, Knight, and Trick all did that, and that's quite impressive. Freeze, you also have one under your belt, so hooray for that. Very impressive. Trick is actually the second time that he gets it twice in a row. He is still as dominant as ever.
Yeah, I mean, Trick is so important for this team in the early game. Great games on Gragas today, and I mean, the guy... You have this team where it's like you have the best jungler, you have the best mid laner, you have the best AD carry, you have the best support. And then even Kikis is actually, right now, if you look at the other top laners in the league, like Kikis is definitely up there among the best. So it's just a completely star-packed lineup.
Yep.
And being a jungler in that lineup must be super funny, because every lane is always doing well. You can just pick whichever you want to go to, and you're going to get a kill.
I'm looking forward to seeing how the team develops, though, because right now I think they are being carried a lot by the individual star power. We're still seeing some mistakes in terms of positioning, maybe a little over-eager at times. So I'm looking forward in a few weeks, once the macro level overall goes up, how G2 matches.
Yeah, as you see it, that Trick obviously at the top of the table.
Where's Freeze?
Is there any surprises for you? Yeah, he's down in the 18-weight tie.
He gets the 18-weight tie.
I'm there, okay? I'm there.
Yeah. In any case, the summer split here in Europe continues next Thursday at 5 p.m. Central European Time, 8 a.m. Pacific, with Roccat taking on Origin and Fnatic facing Schalke 04. Later that day, it is our match of the week between the #1 place G2 Esports and the 2nd place H2K. There we go. That's the match of the week. So match of the week this week was actually H2K versus Fnatic, which was good for you guys. So maybe this means this is an omen for that one.
Well, we'll see about it, because as I said before, G2 was like our kryptonite in scrims. We always like lose versus them a lot. So we'll see how it goes in LCS stage. But what I've heard from players from H2K, that G2 plays the same as they play in scrims. They don't really care if it's LCS or not. They don't have stage jitters. They have veterans, and they're very good. Like, they're the best team, easily. You know, we can say that, and it's going to be very interesting. I hope we will prepare a lot for them, and then
Oh, it's on you now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just have to do my homework again, miss the meeting or something. But yeah, I think we can beat them, definitely.
Okay. How has Probably been for you?
Probably has been amazing. He's a really good coach. I only have had like 3 or 4 coaches. Everyone is different, and everyone has a different approach of the coaching. But Probably is very good when we go over analysis, and he brings up the points, and he's very good at like keeping us to like focus on the points we did badly. Because usually the players they don't really focus on the mistake. They're like, oh man, if we played it better, we would actually win. And then it's like Probably is like, come on guys, what is happening? Like just talk about this problem, and then we start focusing on the right things and start fixing the right things.
Well, everyone always has a lot of love for Probably, Jakos in particular. Let's take a look at what else there is to play here tonight. A lot of leagues still to play out this week, starting later when Energy faces Immortals, followed by Apex versus Envy. The NALCS continues all the way through Sunday, so clear your calendars. Tonight's first best of 3 begins at 2 a.m. here in Germany. That is 5 p.m. for everyone in Pacific Daylight Time, or here in Germany, that is in 2 hours and a half, because that's how long we've been going. So I think it's about time to wrap it up, obviously. Thank you very much, Freeze, for joining us here today, and congrats.
Here's a pen.
Here's a pen.
I don't want anything.
He wants it
Oh,
back.
he doesn't.
So thank you, Freeze, and thank you all of you for tuning in, and we'll see you next week. Take care. GG.